The holidays are here and it is time to gather around the table and eat some food. If you're new here, hey, I'm Healthy Emmie. I'm a nutritionist, a weight loss specialist, the creator of the Slim program. So if you want a custom meal plan, custom workout plan, access to me and a community to support you on your journey, then click the link in the down bar. I am also the creator of Slim supplements. So if you're looking for a clean vitamin B12 and a clean vitamin D3, those are also linked down below. Made by me, no sugar, no oil, no GMOs, no gross stuff, 100% vegan, just one active ingredient. All the recipes that are in this video are going to be vegan, whole food, plant-based, no oil added. If you like these recipes, check out my Healthy Holidays cookbook so you can copy exactly what I'm gonna be doing this year for the holidays. The first recipe, stuffed mushrooms. I promise you people will be asking you for this recipe. I would bet my life on it. They're gonna have one and say, give me this recipe now. Let me show you how to make them. Toasting up in a pan here, we have pine nuts and walnuts. So we're gonna toast these for a few minutes until they are, you guessed it, toasted. And then once they're toasted, we're gonna add them into a food processor along with some red onion, some celery, some garlic, and then the stems from the mushrooms that we're gonna be using. So you're going to de-stem your mushrooms, chop up those mushrooms, and add them into the food processor. Then also in the food processor, I am adding in some nutritional yeast and some Bell's seasoning. If you don't want to use Bell's seasoning, you can just use Italian herb seasoning. And we'll get that all processed in the food processor. And then we're going to add it back into the skillet and toast it up again when it is nice and fragrant. Then we're going to add in some Marsala cooking wine and let that get all soaked up. And we'll let it cook for a few more minutes before we head to the mushrooms. Mushrooms, like I said, have been de-stemmed. And then I am spraying on some soy sauce. Actually, I'm using liquid aminos, but using a spray bottle, I'm spraying it on. You could also drizzle it on or paint it on with a brush. And then we're gonna go ahead and stuff the mushrooms. Now, these can either be cooked right away or you can put them away and save them to be cooked the next day, which I think is amazing. And it makes prep for the holidays so easy because you could prep this, put it in the fridge or bring it to wherever you're going and then just pop it in the oven at 400 degrees for 30 minutes. And you want to make sure that you bake them when they are covered. So I like to do like 20 to 25 minutes covered and then 5 to 10 minutes uncovered. Next up is one of my favorite recipes of all time. I make this for my birthday every year. I always make it for Christmas or for Thanksgiving. This was inspired by a rest in peace restaurant that no longer exists anymore in the Boston area. It was called Walnut Grill and they had a Seitan Marsala and the chef actually took me back and showed me how to make this without oil. I love that man. Let me show you how to make it. Rest in peace, Walnut Grill. I'm spilling all of your secrets. So I am adding here to a skillet. These are my nonstick caraway skillets. I'll have these linked below. I also have a discount code. I'm a huge fan of them. I love these non-toxic cookware pans, so I'll link that down below. But I am adding in a bunch of red onion. Traditionally, this calls for shallots, but I honestly am like, whatever. I'm just gonna use onions. They're cheaper, they're more accessible. So the other thing with this recipe is the amounts are so non-permanent. They're not set in stone. You don't have to follow this recipe exactly as is. So sometimes I'm in the mood for more onions or less onions. Actually, I'm never in the mood for less onions. So I'll use anywhere from 1 to 2 onions, depending on size, and I'll chop the whole thing up, throw it on the skillet, and saute it with some garlic and some veggie broth. And then I add in a bunch of mushrooms and saute those up as well. And I'm using veggie broth to do this and also some of the steam. And then once everything is pretty well cooked, I will add in some Marsala wine. This makes such a difference. I cannot emphasize enough how important this is to the recipe. And it says on there a cup of veggie broth. So what you can do is if you want to make it like a really thick roux, then in a separate pan, you can add in Marsala wine, veggie broth,
and a couple of tablespoons of cornstarch and whisk it all together and put it over medium heat so that it thickens up. And then you can pour it back into the Seitan Marsala dish. Or you can say, whatever, I don't really care if it's thick or thin. I'm just gonna do it without the cornstarch. That's also an option. If I'm just making it for myself, I'll do it without the cornstarch. If I'm making it for other people, I'll make it a really nice roux. And then I'll add in maple syrup as well. And this really gives such a nice touch to it. And I'll just drizzle that over at the end so that it's nice and sweet. And then you're gonna buy seitan and just add the seitan into the skillet and mix it all together and let all the flavors meld together. I like to let it rest for a bit so that it thickens up and so that all of the flavors can meld together. But man, is this a good dish.
What is Christmas morning without cinnamon rolls? So here are the healthiest cinnamon rolls you'll ever have and the most delicious.
So for the cinnamon rolls, we're gonna start by soaking the cashews for the frosting in boiling hot water and preheating the oven to 350 if you are going to make the cinnamon rolls today. If you're not going to make them today, if you're prepping ahead of time, skip this step. So what you're gonna do now is take 4 dates and put them into a bowl of boiling hot water and let them sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then after that, you can go ahead and blend them with the applesauce and blend them to a puree as much as you possibly can so that you don't have huge chunks of dates in your dough. Then you're going to take 3/4 of a cup of non-dairy milk and warm it to about 110 Fahrenheit. If you're new to this, get a thermometer on Amazon because if your milk is too hot, it will kill the yeast. And if it's too cold, the yeast won't be activated. So we want to make sure that we activate the yeast, sprinkle it over the non-dairy milk, and then mix together all of the dry ingredients that are listed here. And then mix the non-dairy milk in with the food processor, with the applesauce and the dates. Mix all of that together. Then add the dry ingredients to the wet and form it into a dough. And you're going to knead the dough about 15 to 20 times before you lay it out on a piece of wax paper into a long rectangle and then put in the filling. And then once the filling is all in, you can roll it up as you do cinnamon rolls and cut them into cinnamon rolls and then place them in the pan that you'll be using to bake. And you want to make sure that this is non-stick. So either line the bottom with parchment paper or use something that doesn't stick like silicone. Then for the frosting, you can go ahead and blend all of this together for the frosting when you're ready to frost the cinnamon rolls, but you don't want to do this until it's actually time to bake them. And when you are ready to bake them, you can bake them for about 20 to 25 minutes at 350 Fahrenheit.
Now, I don't know about you, but we used to have ham on Christmas, we'd have ham on Easter, and I made a ham recipe last year, and I will warn you, as somebody that never really liked meat, this is hammy, this is meaty. So if you have individuals that like some meat and you want to explore other avenues for them, here's the recipe for you. If you're like me and it's a little too meaty, the meat is definitely meating, I've warned you. It's meaty. Here's my hamless ham.
So for this, we are going to add into a food processor a block of tofu with some bouillon. I will say the next ingredient here is liquid smoke. If I were to make this again, I would leave this out. It was just like too intense of a taste for me, but I never liked meaty food. So if somebody likes meaty food, they might really like it. With 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, some maple syrup, nutritional yeast, onion powder, and water. And we'll go ahead and blend all of that up. And then we're gonna add in 1.5 cups of vital wheat gluten. This is what turns it into seitan. Turn it into a loaf, form it into a loaf, wrap it in tinfoil, and then steam it for an hour. And then I created a glaze of just mixing together Dijon mustard, maple syrup, and water, and poured that over the top, and then baked it at 375 for 30 minutes. So what I did was I steamed this ahead of time, and then when we were actually going to have it, that's when I went ahead and baked it.
Next recipe I'm gonna show you is the world's healthiest mac and cheese casserole with no cheese, no dairy.
Our ingredients today are going to be 4 cups of soy milk. You could replace some of this with coconut milk if you wanted it to be a little bit more creamy. And I will say that 4 cups is probably more than you need. Sometimes I like to make this with a little bit less. I'll do 3.5 cups if I want it to be a little bit less liquidy, so to speak. And I will say this does thicken as it sits. So if you want it to sit in the fridge overnight, for example, it'll be a little bit more structured. Whereas if you like your mac and cheese a little bit more soupy, then you'll want to serve it immediately. You'll want 1/4 cup of flour. If you are gluten-free, you could sub this for gluten-free flour. A tablespoon of onion powder, a tablespoon of garlic powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a cup of nutritional yeast for the cheesy flavor, 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 2 cups of dried macaroni, cooked per package instructions. Again, this could be gluten-free if you are gluten-free. 1 celery rib, thinly sliced. 2 carrots, peeled and diced. I will say that sweet potato always also tastes nice in this. You could do sweet potato. And then 2/3 of a cup of almond flour. This is for the topping. If you do have a nut allergy, then you could sub this with breadcrumbs. And if you wanted to add breadcrumbs on top, you absolutely could do that as well. First, we're going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Then for the dry ingredients, we're going to combine the flour, onion powder, garlic powder, cayenne pepper, and nutritional yeast in a bowl. If you're making this for others, you may want to add salt. Personally, none of the ingredients that I have used in this cookbook have salt in them, but of course, add salt to taste if you desire. Then we're going to sprinkle this mixture over the soy milk and put it in a pot over medium heat. We're going to whisk it until it has thickened, and feel free to add some cornstarch as well to help it thicken up a little bit more. Once it's thickened, you can turn off the heat and set it aside. Then we're going to combine the cooked macaroni, celery, and carrots in a casserole dish. Then we're going to pour the soy mixture over the casserole dish and sprinkle some ground nutmeg on top. Then you're going to sprinkle the almond flour on top of the mixture. Feel free to add some breadcrumbs here as well. Now we're going to bake it for about 20 minutes until the top has turned golden brown.
If you made it to this point of the video, I want you to comment which one of these recipes you think would be the most delicious. Ooh, that's a tough one for me. It's either going to be cinnamon rolls, Seitan Marsala, or the stuffed mushrooms, but I think it's going to be between Seitan Marsala and cinnamon. Am I having a stroke? It's going to be between Seitan Marsala and cinnamon rolls. I love cinnamon rolls though. If you liked this video, you are going to love my Healthy Holidays cookbook, so that is linked in the description bar. You'll also love the next video that pops up on the screen with more recipe ideas. I love you, honeys, and I'll see you in my next video.